Hello everyone and welcome back to Make Your Mind. This is the latest of my SCP sculpture showcases for my horror section. And horrifying indeed. This one is a truly horrifying entity all its own. In fact, this entity is extremely persistent. This SCP has had many run-ins, especially with the Foundation, and it has been traversing across time. Well, essentially trying to destroy or find a cure of what it calls the Pestilence. And yes, that's the SCP that I will be talking about today. For this sculpture showcase, I will be showing off SCP-049. The Plague Doctor. Look at this. I'm quite proud of this one. I like SCP-049. He's so... this creature means well, but we all know that behind that face lies a very sadistic nature. But with that, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty, some of the details, shall we? SCP-049 is a humanoid entity roughly 1.9 meters or nearly 6 feet in height, which bears the appearance of a medieval plague doctor. It's the Black Plague. Back in the days, they used to wear these kind of almost bird-like masks, but apparently those bird-like masks are imitations of SCP-049. While SCP-049 appears to be wearing the thick robes and the ceramic mask indicative of that profession, the garment instead seems to have grown out of its very own body over time. So this is actually its skin. It's not a robe. It's not garb. It's literally... Oh. Hold a second, let me put his knife back in. There have been some depictions of SCP-049 with a knife, and I really do like that one. The fact that he sort of cuts open his cadavers in order to study the pestilence. And not too dissimilar from the pestilence that we're dealing with today with what's going on in the world. But it's funny. It's funny how SCP-049 seems to be so relevant, especially with everything going on nowadays. SCP-049 is capable of speech in a variety of languages, including, but not limited to, English and medieval-style French. While SCP-049 is generally cordial and cooperative with the Foundation and its staff, it can become especially irritated or at times outright aggressive if it feels that it is in the presence of what it calls the Pestilence, which is this creature's form of some sort of plague or some sort of virus, which at the time can't even really be defined. For the Pestilence, apparently SCP-049 is the only one, other than one other individual, that can actually find the Pestilence, and that individual was in fact a companion of SCP-049, but that she actually and eventually perished. Although the exact nature of the pestilence is currently unknown to Foundation researchers, it does seem to be an issue of immense concern to SCP-049. So much of a concern that the Foundation even gives test subjects to SCP-049 for further study. Because this creature is not necessarily murderous in its intent. It's actually more like a scientist, more like a doctor is, more like a pathologist, looking for pathogens and looking for ways to end them, and doing it by any means necessary. Very similar to the plague. Oop. Sorry, SCP-049, there we go. Sorry, it slipped out of my hand. There we go, now you're back. SCP-049 actually has a secondary function. It's called SCP-049 TAC-2. And SCP-049 TAC-2 is a substance that's actually created by SCP-049 instances, and it actually has the ability to reanimate the dead. So when you play games like SCP Containment Breach, you will see members of strike teams from the SCP Foundation actually come back to life as zombies, and that is because of SCP-049-2, the substance that's created by SCP-049. These instances do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little, and in generally ambulatory fashion, they can become extremely aggressive if provoked, and that is the reanimated corpses that are actually brought back by SCP-049-2, the substance created by SCP-049. Despite these alterations, SCP-049 often remarks that the subjects have been cured. So he is a scientist and a doctor, but is deeply misguided. Look at that. Look at those eyes. That is its actual face, by the way. That's not a mask. And this is its skin, like I said before. But there gives you a little details as to what and who SCP-049 is. And another funny thing is, SCP-049 has had run-ins with other SCPs, particularly SCP-035. Of course, they're not to size, they're more... SCP-035 is much smaller. But apparently SCP-035 was a former companion with SCP-049, but they are not the best of friends, I have to say. But with that concludes the video. If you enjoy these SCP videos, which I must admit I'm having a total blast getting back into SCP, I've been a fan for a long time. Ever since Markiplier first played SCP-087-B have I been a fan of this series. So it's been pretty close to 5-6 years now. And if you enjoy these videos just as much as I do, don't forget to leave a like down below, and also get to subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications, so you never miss the next video. I got many more of these coming, so stay tuned for the next SCP-based sculpture showcase.